You don't have to fix all the problems. You just have to lower inflammation is in your body.
We're measuring how the light bounces off of the internal physiological environment. 85 to 90% accuracy.
Really?
Yes.
The biomedical complex has come into play is focused on the 1/3 of who we are. But they never talk about the mind, will, and emotion or the spirit.
We think the science is settled, water's water. But clearly there's another side to the equation many times.
During COVID now, we have what's called turbo cancer. Any virus that's around can now perpetuate and go from sort of a stealth mode to a much more active mode.
We've never used causation as a rationale to take a drug off the market.
Some of the most valuable things doctors have discovered in this whole pandemic era are derivatives from nature.
You're finding that therapy is the best one.
Yes. We can heal, detox our body of all poisons, and regenerate ourselves back to health. We absolutely can.
Hi, it's Jonathan Otto, and welcome to the final bonus episode, Fighting for Your God-Given Health and Medical Freedom. As we've learned so far, we're in fact in a war for our health against the elites and Big Pharma. This war is just as real as any other physical war we may have seen. In fact, this may be deadlier because it's easier for the enemy to win when no one can see them attacking. But if we look with the correct lens, we can see what they're doing and the damage that they're causing. In this episode, we'll dive into how we can fight back and reclaim our God-given health. We start off this episode with Stephanie Lind, who shares anecdotes highlighting people's loss of trust in American institutions, including a woman who expressed her concerns about compromised agencies during a discussion with Dr. Robert Malone. She also mentions a story from Vietnam where the perception of American technological advancement clashed with the outcome of the Vietnam War. Stephanie speaks on the transition to fifth-generation warfare, where blame is unclear. She discusses the potential impact of medical disabilities by 2030 and shares her personal experience as a mother of a child with disabilities. Stephanie encourages individuals to consider participating in litigation against the perceived erosion of rights and suggests filing complaints as a way to contribute to legal actions.
My name is Stephanie Lind. I'm the founder of the Health Freedom Summit. And earlier today, I was talking with Dr. Robert Malone, and we were kind of re-experiencing a situation that he had in Portugal. They're one of the most heavily vaccinated nations, even surpassing Italy. And he said that this woman from the audience raised her hand and her husband had been killed by the vaccine. And she said to him, "We look to America and the CDC and the FDA as just the gold standard. The pharmaceutical, products that came out of America, the world really looked to that and regarded you." And she said, "It's just really clear that you've had agency take over and have been compromised." And Dr. Malone just couldn't believe that even on the national stage, people were saying this. And it reminded me of this interview that I saw of the man in Vietnam. He said that he was with his mother and his siblings, and they were hiding, and there was news that the Americans were coming, and they were waiting, and they were eating through all of their food. And he said, "We were eating pumpkins. Pumpkins last a really long time, but the Americans were coming, and it was going to be fine." And he said, the Americans went to outer space. The Americans went to the moon. Now, I don't know if we went to the moon, but this is what he's thinking. The Americans are the most technologically advanced people on the earth. And the Americans lost the Vietnam War horribly. And in fact, all fourth generational warfare, which is this kind of guerrilla type warfare, America has has lost all of those. And so Dr. Robert Malone was talking about now how we're transitioning to fifth generational warfare, which is a warfare where there's clear loss and there's clear suffering, but who's to blame isn't clear. Is Fauci running the show? Is Biden running the show? Which one? And you're not sure who to go after and who to blame. And in Vietnam, they started using these hollow bullets. And telling the people in the military to not shoot at the core, but to shoot at the periphery. Because what they found is that if you shot a person with a hollow bullet, that it would injure them. And now you had taken out 3 men on the other side, because you had to have 2 people carry out the one that was injured. And a lot of people have said that by 2030, you're either going to be a person who is partially medically disabled, or you're going to be caring for a person who is disabled and not able to fully participate and enter in a broad, normalized way with the rest of society. This is something that I care a lot about because I am the mother of a child with Down syndrome. And even though my daughter is very intelligent, she has some quirks that a lot of kids with autism do. So she gets naked in public and knocks on people's doors and goes in other people's homes. And raising her has just been extremely challenging. And so I know the cost and the toll of caring for a person with disabilities. And I know that many of you have also had this sense of loss or suffering. Many of us had parents that died and we weren't able to be with our parents in their deaths, or our parent lost, their partner in their 50s or 60s, or many people have had secondary fertility because of the shots. They've lost jobs. Some people lost the businesses that their families have been building for generations. And I want to encourage you as we're moving forward, many people who could merely afford to take the loss and move on, I want to encourage you to consider how you might be a part of really important historical litigation that's going on right now. Because some of the people who are highly motivated to litigate are motivated by debilitating losses, by debilitating injury, by the death of a loved one, by the loss of a job. And so many of the people who have had a bad enough thing happen to sue have a hard time doing that. And I want to encourage you to stand shoulder to shoulder with other people who have experienced loss and to do what you can to be a part of raising a legal wall against this type of a tsunami of taking away our rights from ever happening again. There's a few important things that you can do to be a part of this. So one thing is to file complaints. In any type of a situation, don't pay any mind to where the complaint goes, because these numbers are important in cases. And so if, a lawyer is doing discovery and, they said, well, how many complaints did the department get by people who, files a complaint about this? Well, if the number is 3 versus if the number is 300,000, that's going to have a different weight. So if you have a situation where there is discrimination, if there was just you were wronged or you were given a medical, just any way with it, you were wronged or affected, find out how you can give a complaint and do that regardless of the outcome. You don't know what type of legal case that could help in the future. Another thing that you can do is to get your medical records. So if there's someone that you know who died in hospital protocols from remdesivir or from being intubated, get those medical records, have them. Make sure that the hospital documents exactly how that person was treated and how they died or how they were injured. Don't wait to get that. Do that now. Another thing you can do is if you are a person who is in a really important corporation, Google, Amazon, Disney, if you receive a notification that they send out to employees and it's an infringement of rights, or it seems to have language in it that you think this might be helpful to litigation or a law case, save that email, save that correspondence, see what you can do to get that to a lawyer who might be able to use that in a case. A lot of times a lawyer will have someone who comes and has a complaint, but they need to gather evidence. So if you could be a person who's gathering that evidence, particularly at a major corporation that could send a strong signal to the rest of corporate America, save that, send that. Contact lawyers. Contact lawyers in your area as a whistleblower and note who is taking case in it and who isn't. And even if you get off the phone and they say, we're not litigating that right now. There are lawyers that I've talked to today and they said, I helped one client. He said he called 40 different lawyers before someone took the case. Well, you know what? If law office just started having tons of people call them, excuse me, are you litigating cases on this? They're going to pay attention to that. Do something like this. Just take 15 or 20 or 45 minutes to see if you can file a complaint or if you can do some of these action points. Because it's really going to take this type of voluminous action from the people. And this is why I have bad news for you. We do not have a justice system in America. We have a legal system, which means that even if a crime was committed, someone has to have been directly injured from it. Evidence has to be gathered, and there has to be a whole organization of activity around this that needs to happen. And that's something that everyday people can and should be a part of. I've heard it said that in order for there to be mass human tragedy, there has to be one truly evil mastermind, 10 people who kind of carry out the work, maybe somewhat hesitantly, 100 people who really know what's going on, but they don't think it's their job to report it, and then 10,000 people who do nothing. So we need to erect barriers from tyranny sweeping our land again in this way. And I want to invite you to be a part of the legal action that's moving forward, because, there's a point in a relationship, in a business, or, unfortunately, sometimes in personal relationships where you're like, we're not talking anymore. I'm talking to my lawyer. And that's it. And who thought we'd be out at a day where doctors are mistrusted and lawyers are heroes? But here we are. Legal action is what we all need to be a part of and to move towards as we create a place that is safer for us and for our children. So I want to invite you to support, just like in Vietnam, people would be injured and then carried. I want to invite you to carry the people who have faced substantial loss. And where all of this happened, I am a mother of 5. I have 2 children that are going to be on IEPs, 1 child with Down syndrome. And I just asked, how can I help? And people said, well, you can share and you can donate. Well, I just got really good at those 2 things because I was a stay-at-home mom. I didn't have a career. I didn't have any contacts. And I just started sharing and then figuring out how I could fundraise. And I ended up, becoming very successful at those 2 things. I also sent a lot of Thai food to people who were, on the front lines. I was talking with Thomas Renz once, and he literally fell asleep in front of me. I am talking with multiple leaders in our movements who are showing me, it's actually astounding the number of children a lot of these people have. 6 kids, 7 kids. So I want to encourage you to do what you can. Purchase this series. Be involved. When you hear an action point, just don't hear about it. Actually take action to do that. I know with Jono's work, I've been in situations where, the series comes and goes, and then I don't get in, and then it's too late. And I've had to email them and ask for specific customer service about it. But these action points that people are sharing with you, if you're a person who's able to help, every little piece really does matter. And it's a simple saying, but just do something or help someone who is doing something. We now live in an age of bioterrorism. So anything you can do to strengthen and help your natural immunity is something that's really important. It's also really important that we help people as they litigate. One of the most important things outside of litigation is we have to pass legislation that makes the unvaccinated a protected class. This is something we need to start doing in the red states. And basically, that phrase like, we don't discriminate against people with disabilities, they have a whole bunch of things. We need to add on to that persons who are unvaccinated. As a Jewish person and as a Jewish person who lived in New York for a while, I was out of New York at this point, but they literally wouldn't let you into stores unless you showed your papers. Now, as a Jewish person, show me your papers in order to enter into a shopping facility to get my groceries is obviously highly alarming. And Dr. Robert Malone has talked about mass psychosis. This is an idea that goes all the way back to Plato. So as you are watching this series, really taking the time to not miss any of these thoughtful episodes, but going through them, you are doing important work to be a part of that 20% of the population that sees behind the curtain and isn't subject to that hypnotic messaging anymore. The way that we went from the lockdowns, and the stores are closed, and your children aren't allowed to go to school, and that all of that frustration, that tension, that fear, that dis-ease was focused on the unvaccinated. We've done that before in other times and periods of history. And to channel all of that disease and to say, whose fault it is that we're not able to get back to normal? It's people we've been very patient with. It's the unvaccinated. We've given them plenty time, means, and opportunity. That type of languaging, that hate speech, we know historically it leads to hate crimes. And not tolerating that, but really not participating in these evil practices, whether it's not participating in mask wearing, not participating in what it is that they're telling us to do. I think all of those actions of integrity are important. And I want to thank you for being a person who's listening, who's learning, because in law, knowing something, you also can prove that someone didn't know something that they could know if they had just been reasonable and asked a reasonable amount of questions. So thank you for being a person who's taken your valuable time to be here, to understand, to act, to help the helpless, to help people who have experienced loss. And I want to encourage you, if you've had loss, to come back to that when you're ready in your period of grieving, and to have positive action come out of that. Do it in the name of the person that you loved that was lost. COVID is not the last iteration of this. It's not the last mutated virus that we will see. The lawsuits and the legislation that we pass in this time is extremely important to protect that doctor-patient sacred relationship, and to prevent and to put up boundaries against tyranny, so that we continue to have a place where us and our children are free. So for everything that you've done and everything that you're continuing to do, I want to thank you for your time, for your truthfulness, and for being a person of action.
Hey, it's Jonathan. Thank you so much for joining me in this bonus episode. A quick reminder that yes, people were really disappointed and frustrated when we closed down our program. So people felt like, oh, but what? I can't get the 8 supplement 60-day protocol anymore. I really wanted that disease in reverse protocol. I really wanted to get access to those masterclasses. If these episodes have been this good, then that masterclass must be amazing. And it is. You've seen the experts that are in it. Every place they show up, everything that they share is amazing. So like, imagine, when you're joining and watching these masterclasses, you've got the transcripts for them, not just the videos, but the transcripts, so you can read along. It's like the perfect combination of factors: reading, listening, watching. The MP3s, you can listen to those anytime you like when you're working out at the gym. You've got it all. You've got the books and DVDs in your home, censorship free, so they can sit in your bookcase, and just the proud thing that you have there that you can share with your loved ones. If you ever come to a live event, you can bring it. I would love to write a personal message in there for you. So these are tools that you have at your fingertips, at your coffee table, when your loved ones are over and they just talk about, yeah, man, I got such a sore back, and I'm just, I've been so foggy headed, I just can't seem to lose weight, and I'm just having all these issues, and I feel like my heart hasn't been the same after I took this jab, or whatever people are sharing with you. You say, hey, look, flip over to this page. Do you want to just have a look at that for a second while I'm making you a cup of tea? And then you have a tool that you can share with people, and that's the powerful thing about it. And so remember, you'll get all $4,300 worth plus of free gifts. We've really given you so much because we know what kind of difference this will make in your life and in your health. And it doesn't make a difference to my life. It allows me to continue this work to help other people, so it makes a difference in their lives. But the thing that it does for you is that it makes your life different. It doesn't change anything for me, but it changes potentially everything for you. And I know that it will. If you're in a state of suffering and you want to be in a state of better health, if you want to simply prevent negative outcomes in the future, use our program, use this information. Don't stop your learning here. Don't just stand in a standstill place. If you've learned about some things you'd like to try, if you'd like to try a parasite cleanse, a heavy metal detox, if you'd like to do these things, take a chemical cleanse, a toxin binder with humic and fulvic, what a great formula. If you want to use these products and you want to try it and you're just wondering where to get started, instead of just trying this one thing, giving up, feeling discouraged, trying this one thing, giving up, feeling discouraged, which is exactly what Natalia did, even though she was spending money on practitioners, but that was still the net effect because they weren't well-rounded. She said that the thing that made the difference for her was that we shared a sequence. Every single step that she needed to take was there in our product, which was, in that case, she watched Autoimmune Secrets. Now this is much more, this is the latest information, so it's awesome. But again, you can check out some of those resources. But this has all that information. We have a lot of information all about autoimmune disease through this series, in our mini series, in our master classes, all as part of this program. So you're getting everything that she needed. But what was happening is that she would try one thing, and then she'd try that, stop that, and then she'd try the next thing, try that, stop that. But she needed to do these things together in the right process, and that's why we're sending out a protocol sheet. You just follow it. You know when to take the supplement, what time in the day, because it's a process. It's about doing these things together. It's about getting the toxic heavy metals out. It's about getting rid of the parasites. It's about cleansing the gut. It's about restoring the gut. It's about helping you with each of these steps. It's about supporting your heart health, your blood flow. We are helping you move forward. It's about then making dietary changes when and if you feel ready to do those as we go through. But it can be as simple as just starting with the change in the supplements, or you can go as fast or as slow as you like. But the key is to get started. It does not matter where you start. It matters that you get started, because someone like Lori just started one therapy, and that one therapy started cascade for her to change lots of different things, but she wanted to at that point, and it was easy for her, whereas it felt impossible at the time. You need to give yourself a leg up. Like, for example, if you just can't control your food cravings, then do a parasite cleanse before you are even trying to change your diet, because once you get rid of some parasites, you'll start feeling amazing, and you'll start feeling like you don't even like those foods anymore, because those cravings are based on those pathogens in your body. These parasites are actually causing cravings. So do what it takes to live the best life that you want to have, and get these toxins and poisons out of your body. I just want to encourage you, use this program. It's going to be life-changing for you. Change your life just like all the people who have been sharing with you. Their results are results that you can achieve for yourself, and that can be a lasting change that lasts forever. That is something that your loved ones, whether it's your spouse, your children, your grandchildren, your parents, your wider family, cousins, all the people, your friends, your dearest of friends, everyone will be blessed by you taking care of yourself and loving yourself enough and up-leveling yourself. You will be such a gift to others as you inspire them. And that's why I get my friends that have had these health transformations to come on and share with you, because they're a blessing everywhere they go. Why? Because they changed their health themselves. They made those steps. And so then now they're a blessing everywhere they go. They're helping everyone every day. Everyone that is in their lives, see them, ask them. They're the ones that are now asking, instead of you kind of feeling like you have to push it. They'll see it in you and ask questions. So use this tool to change your life. Remember, it is all closing down now. This is it. There will not be another opening. When this episode closes, this closes for good. And I don't want you to miss out on this incredible opportunity. What a gift to be able to watch the full 12 episodes. And now that we're closing this, what a gift to be able to own it. Own the full program. You're not missing a single thing when you order it today, but if you come back later, you won't be able to get it. And that would be really sad, and we won't be able to extend that offering. So check it out here on this page. Place your order today if this is something you want. I look forward to seeing you inside the program. Hope you enjoy the episode. Next, we have Ashley Grogg, a registered nurse with 20 years of experience who shares her journey in the healthcare industry. She initially worked in traditional Western medicine, particularly in cardiac care, but felt something was missing in her patient care. She observed that her patients were not getting better, and that the approach was often focused on temporary solutions rather than addressing root causes. Due to the dissatisfaction she felt, Ashley transitioned into a health coaching position where she worked with patients on Medicare and Medicaid. In this role, she was able to take a more holistic approach, considering not only the physical aspects, but also the emotional, spiritual, and mental barriers that affected the patient's well-being. After that, we have Sunjata S. Gibson, a civil rights attorney who specializes in COVID litigation cases involving constitutional rights to exemptions from mandates. She has successfully challenged unlawful religious medical exemption policies in New York City and played a role in reducing the healthcare worker mandate in New York State. Sujata focuses on advocating for the right to opt out of COVID measures to prevent injuries. She mentions the difficulties in addressing COVID vaccine injuries due to limited liability for manufacturers. She highlights specific cases she's involved in, including one where the New York City Department of Education reported vaccine status to the FBI, resulting in far-reaching consequences. Sujata and her team are actively working to address these issues in court.
My name is Ashley Grogg. I am a master's prepared registered nurse. Been a nurse for just about 20 years. I started out in traditional Western medicine. I was a cardiac nurse, eventually helped develop the heart failure program at a local regional hospital. And unfortunately, as I moved through those different roles, I felt something was missing. It was really difficult for me to perform in those functions because I knew that there was so much missing from my patient care. My patients, unfortunately, weren't getting better. We were putting Band-Aids on, and I would watch as, as a metaphor, the Band-Aids would either become infected and get worse, or they would just fall off and it would be the same problem over again. With that, it was eating my soul, and I couldn't continue in that kind of environment because of the fact that it was affecting me so deeply personally. I've had experience on the other side of the bed. I've been the patient. My loved ones have been the patient. And I see the difference between what happens when you have true advocacy for the patients, when you work towards root cause, when you have that relationship of collaboration with your patients, and that it doesn't happen very often in the system anymore. I was lucky to move out of that role and into a health coaching position. I was paid as an RN to coach patients on Medicare, Medicaid for a major insurance company. And it was one of the most wonderful jobs starting out because I was really able to work with my patients and ask them questions about what was going on with their life and address not only the physical, but because a lot of times the emotional, the spiritual, the mental barriers prevent them from achieving those health goals or fully embracing what they need to do to take care of their bodies. When patients have somebody who cares, who's going to listen to them, they can achieve such great things when they feel like there is hope rather than just relying on a pill bottle to achieve health, because that's not possible. That's where I'm at. I'm out of that job too and working independently because unfortunately, as we see in industry, medical industry, that role changed rapidly and I became a data miner. My job went from coaching patients and helping them achieve their health and wellness goals to simply collecting statistics so that way the insurance companies could say whether or not the patient was meeting best practices. And unfortunately, it's not just about the best practice. It's a human being, and there's a lot more to that. So I moved into a role where I work for myself and I can sit down with my patients and really dig into what's going on with their health as well as with their emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects. And it's been a really big blessing to be able to love patients like that, because that's what healthcare should be. That's why I became a nurse. I had a patient who was diabetic, and he was a problem patient, and nobody wanted to take care of him because he wouldn't take his insulin. So I go in there and I introduce myself. Hi, Mr. Smith. My name's Ashley. I'm going to be your nurse today. I understand that you're having issues with your blood sugar, go over all the things. And he got mad and he started, yelling. And I said, hey, look, I'm not here to make you do anything. I want to help you. So let's talk about why you don't want to take your insulin. And his whole physiology changed. Everything about him changed. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, I want to know why don't you want to? What's preventing you? And he said, why do you care? And I was like, well, I can't help you if you don't tell me why. If I don't know how to help, if I don't know why, I can't say how to help you. And he stared at me for a little while and he goes, my brother took insulin and died. Okay. I can understand why you wouldn't want to take that medicine. Softening that heart, taking a chance to get to know your patient and understand them. And it was case like that after case. And so how can you tell a doctor you have 15 minutes to walk in that room, diagnose that patient, tell them the treatment plan, give them the risks and benefits, and understand those things? You can't. That's not possible. And nursing care is a lot the same. I have 6 patients. That's 10 minutes per hour that I get with those patients. They're acutely ill. How do you do it? You can't. You cannot. It's not physically possible. And that is heartbreaking when medical professionals don't go in and do all the pain and suffering of whether it be nursing school or medical school because they enjoy torture. You don't, hours and hours of work, sleep loss of time with your family. You don't do that just because you want to do something difficult. You do it because you have a personal passion, a personal experience that's brought you to look to help alleviate human suffering. I got him to take the insulin. There's something amazing that happens when you can connect with somebody's heart, but that takes time, and that takes intention and a willingness to give them your full attention. So I sat down with him. He was sitting on the window ledge, and I went and sat down on the bed. And, that's kind of a vulnerable thing, right? I'm sitting in the lower position. I connected with him. I said, I'm really sorry that happened. And my job is to help keep you safe. And I promise that I'm not going to, put you at risk. Let's talk about what's acceptable. He wouldn't take the full dosage, which is fine. That was his choice, but that's part of building trust. And it can't be all or nothing, right? And so we met in the middle, and over the course of the time, it was really funny because I became his favorite, and he quit throwing things and being angry and slamming the door. And the other nurses didn't understand what had happened, but it was because I sat there and I just talked to the man. I just treated him like a human being and loved on him just a little bit. I gave him the same decency that I would want, and his whole personality changed. So we talked about different things. We talked about different ways to control his blood sugar. He agreed to some lifestyle changes. He was drinking a lot of soda and doing all the wrong things. But once he knew, he didn't understand the connection. And that's something we take for granted, just that simple education and telling people why we're doing the things that we do. And then they're willing to make some of those changes. And some of them are small changes over the course of time. And that's okay, because you're moving in the right direction. We're not going to fix everything in one fell swoop. So it was a beautiful, I really grew to love him. He was there for quite a while. And it was a special thing just because he was pretty violent. But just takes a little bit of love and compassion. I became a nurse to be hospice. That's what I wanted to do. Over the course of 10 years, we had 4 people die in our home. And it was the most beautiful thing, because those nurses that were coming in to care for my family members, they didn't just heal. They didn't heal. My loved ones died. But they healed our hearts, and they gave us the opportunity to love each other. They gave us quality of life and time that we wouldn't have otherwise had. And that was another really tough thing for me to do in the hospital, because it's not just about the days. It's about the quality of the days that really matters. And then the cool thing about hospice is sometimes these patients will go into hospice and they'll actually live longer than you expected because they have better quality of life. They're with their family. They get loved on. Their symptoms are better managed. And I want people to enjoy their lives, be able to do the things that matter to them. And it looks different for everybody. So yeah, it's emotional for me. It's personal, because I always said my patients, the elderly, a lot of them because of heart failure, when you drop your loved one off to me, I will take care of them like my family. While they are in the walls of my hospital, they are my family, and I will fight for them because you can't be there. And I have a lot of knowledge that I can help and support your loved one. And that's the way everybody should be. That's just being a good person. It's not because I'm special or fantastic. It's because I just want to be a good person, and I want to love my patients. I want to help my friends that are still working in Western medicine. I focus on vaccine advocacy, and not in some of the ways that my friends would like me to. I've been working on a project called the VAERS Project, and it is to help educate healthcare professionals on the vaccine adverse event reporting system. And unfortunately, in this day and age, we find ourselves seeing a lot of vaccine adverse events and even reactions, but we're not able to help those patients. I did some preliminary research before starting this project, and 14% of the nurses we surveyed said that they were discouraged from simply making a VAERS report, which is federally required. This is part of the problem. People are afraid to speak out and do the right things because if they don't play the right way, they don't get to work in that field. So my hope with the VAERS project is to provide the facts. VAERS isn't a perfect system. It has a lot of flaws. It isn't a confirmation of a reaction. That is not your job. Your job is to report objective facts. The patient was vaccinated and then this occurred. That is the role of the healthcare provider. And VAERS identifies in federal law, you are required, if you have the ability to prescribe, administer vaccines, you are federally required to report table events, or for vaccines that are on the emergency use authorization, they have a list of events that you are required federally to report, and that's not happening. So this is a whole new aspect of advocacy and assisting not only the patients, because my goal with this is to create awareness about adverse events that they do occur. Nothing is safe and effective, period. Cookie cutter medicine in this sense is not working. And if we are asking people to take risks, then we had better be prepared to provide them with appropriate risk-benefit analysis, as well as if they experience an adverse event or a reaction, we need to be prepared for early intervention and treatment so that way we can mitigate the long-term effects of those adverse events, because that is what's going to help improve quality of life. The earlier you have intervention, especially with inflammatory conditions, the better the outcome. And so that's where my heart and soul is right now, is trying to help these people, because if we continue down this path, and we are, they're coming out with a new mRNA RSV vaccine, which has already been flagged for Guillain-Barré. We have to prepare the medical professionals to be able to identify, to be able to support and educate the patients, and also collect the data that's going to tell us how we help them and maybe who shouldn't receive these vaccines.
My name is Sujata Gibson. I'm a principal attorney at the Gibson Law Firm, the LLC. We're a civil rights law firm in Ithaca, New York. And I also work part-time at Cornell Law School teaching movement law, essentially, and constitutional law.
What work have you done for COVID vaccine injuries?
Well, I have a number of high-profile cases in the COVID litigation in general. A lot of it is constitutional rights to mandate, to exemptions from mandates. So we just recently got the New York State mandate for healthcare workers stripped down, for example. I've worked a lot with New York City mandates and overturning, unlawful religious exemption policies. We're attacking unlawful medical exemption policies. So that's a lot of the lens that we usually go through. At this moment, COVID vaccine injuries are particularly difficult because there's enormous protection from any liability. So you really can't sue the manufacturers at all. And it's very hard to sue anybody else to help people who already had been injured. So my work is largely focused on giving people the right to opt out, and to opt out for their children so that they don't get injured in the first place. So this is a case called Kane v. de Blasio. There's another companion case, New York is for religious liberty versus New York. And one of the things that we discovered, we have an affidavit in the record that the New York City Department of Education was reporting COVID vaccine status to the FBI and attaching these problem codes to everybody's employment files when they did not comply with the mandate. And there's kind of far-reaching consequences of that way beyond the New York City Department of Education and that we're attacking in court. They haven't denied the allegation. They haven't really directly addressed the issue, other than to say they don't think it should impact people. But we know that it has impacted people who are going to other employers or other school districts and saying, I want a job, and they're eminently qualified, and they're told, look, I would love to hire you, but you have this problem zone attached to your file. So we're kind of in the beginning stages of trying to understand what is going on, what possible justification there could be, and to hold them accountable and make sure that this gets addressed. I haven't been able to do cases addressing COVID vaccine injuries, but I represent a lot of kids who have been injured by other vaccines. And so some of the work that I've done with Children's Health Defense is trying to bring to the court the issue of the importance of medical exemptions and not allowing these new state policies and increasing drive to narrow these medical exemptions. In California and New York and other places, you're starting to see departments of health creating these very narrow definitions of what qualifies for a medical exemption, and then taking a further step, like in New York, where they're deputizing school principals to overrule treating physicians. And it's been devastating. Now, I represent families who have lost one, or in one case, more than one child to proven vaccine death. One of these families went all the way through the vaccine injury compensation program. They were compensated by the U.S. government. It's not a conspiracy theory. No, we know vaccine death happens. Children do die because of vaccines. And their siblings are now, and the surviving children in the family are not allowed an exemption. So we really have to, as a nation, kind of stop making this political and start thinking about this rationally and reasonably and giving broad protection to vulnerable children. When you get a rash, when you take sulfa drugs as a baby, you're never given sulfa drugs again out of an abundance of caution. Well, doctors should be able to have that same power in this context. It's absurd to gamble with children's lives. A lot of children that I have encountered have a condition called PANDAS, pediatric. It's a neurological condition where it's an autoimmune neurological inflammatory condition. Other neurological inflammatory conditions are also quite common. Neurologic encephalopathy, for example, there are a variety of those kinds of injuries that you see, and then there are other autoimmune conditions, or this one child has anaphylactic shock. I mean, there's really a whole gamut of conditions. In fact, if you look at the vaccine inserts themselves, you'll see listed hundreds of conditions that are kind of common to all the package inserts that are potential serious adverse reaction.
To conclude our last bonus episode for Disease in Reverse, we have Stephanie Lind, who discusses vaccine hesitancy, big pharma's influence, and the importance of protecting children from exploitation. She shares the impact of sudden adult death syndrome and her involvement in the movement. Stephanie highlights the financial power of pharmaceutical companies and encourages individuals to take action. She emphasizes and expresses optimism about the growing vaccine hesitancy and the need for research on neurological vaccine injuries. Stephanie emphasizes the importance of hope and collective action against the current state of affairs.
I don't remember what it was, but Senator Johnson just had this explosive testimony. And again, who aired that? Who shared that? This is important information that when it comes out, if there is blocking with the pharma-owned media companies, it is I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to share. Just even, again, if it's email, it doesn't have to be on social media because that can be censored. Even just emailing 5 to 10 people with news that holds people accountable and that makes claims that are really relevant. That is a practical thing that anybody can do in their sphere of influence. When we talk about influence, a lot of people think up and high and virtual. And I actually think that human communication in person is so much more powerful and effectual. And I want to invite people even to look back, so if I'm a mother and I made vaccination choices for my children, and now I specifically take other moms out who are young mothers and I talk with them and make sure I share information with vaccines about them so that they can make informed choices. So everyone has a path that they've walked, and someone who is on, just a little bit behind them that they can reach and help. At my church, they say, if you're 10 and you love Jesus, go share what you know with a 7-year-old. And if we all just do that, if we all just look back instead of looking up and thinking, how can I influence people that are above me or beyond me? If we all just ask, how can I influence my brother or my neighbor or the person a little bit behind me? That's where we have true influence. And on that topic, I would like specifically, if there's a child in your sphere of influence, children have just been through this incredible experience where they've been masked, school has been canceled. If we had just let all of the children build natural immunity, they have, no mortality. We could have gotten out of this very fast, but we didn't. So children have had this experience. And if you're a parent, if you're an aunt, if you're a grandmother, if you're a neighbor who has a relationship with children in your neighborhood, I want to invite you to talk with them about their experience, to let them process that aloud with a loving and safe adult, and to speak truth in any areas where they have been lied to. We've heard a lot about information and misinformation the past couple of years, and that's not what's going on. There's truth and there are liars. And so making sure that your children aren't growing up with deeply implanted lies about what happened with COVID is really important. And that, again, is another 15 to 20 minute step that I think would heal the heart of the children that we're responsible for, and would also help them not to be normalized, to think that it's normal just for the government to circumvent the sacred physician-patient relationship and to mass prescribe medicine. And now what we're even having at the global level with the World Health Organization is they're wanting to globally mandate medicine, saying this is absolutely not acceptable. This is not something we're going to tolerate. And this is not something that we're going to tolerate being normalized for our child and our children. It's something that all of us together can do. There was this great moment that was captured on national television. Trump comes out and he says, I've heard from a lot of people that there's this new drug, hydroxychloroquine, and it's very promising, very promising. And that was I wasn't even trying to do an impression, but he mispronounces it, but he's trying to say hydroxychloroquine. And Fauci just comes swinging into the podium like he's on, like Tarzan on a bike, pushes the president out of the way, and starts having a conniption fit on live television. He doesn't even know what he's saying. He just pushes the president out of the way and starts having just a meltdown on national television. And everybody who's watching is kind of like, oh, yeah, I just witnessed. That was so weird. And I want to encourage you, one thing that's really important with this type of just lying that we're seeing going on is that when your gut tells you this is weird, this person is acting strangely, to note that and to not be dissuaded from that. Because what was happening in that moment is Fauci knew that in order for emergency authorization approval to be given to these vaccines, that there had to be no other viable alternatives. So hydroxychloroquine, multi-purpose, cheap, effective drugs couldn't be available. There had in the law, it says that there can't be alternatives to the medicine that you're trying to push through with this emergency authorization. So that's why hydroxychloroquine couldn't work. That's why ivermectin couldn't be an option. And they did a trial where they gave people kind of a family branch of that drug and at a lethal level in order to have a study that they produced to say that this drug didn't work. And then again, and you might say, why are they putting this experimental mRNA vaccine on the childhood vaccine schedule when children do not have any mortality with COVID? And after really the pandemic is over, why would they do that? Again, this gut check of, well, why is this necessary to be on the vaccine schedule that's adopted by many people so that these children can come into the public school system? Well, it's because, again, of how insurance and liability works for pharmaceutical companies. If the vaccine is on the childhood vaccine schedule, then it is granted total immunity under the 1986 Act. And so when you hear these things and they don't seem to make sense, there are oftentimes large agendas that are at play that is motivating these actions that on their face, what the people are telling you doesn't really make sense. And we are in an economy now where most families have to have a working mother and a working father. Many families, that puts them in the position of now my children have to attend public school. There are many people who have vulnerabilities in their lives, whether it's poverty, whether it's divorce, and their ex-spouse is holding vaccination status over them and is making their child go to public school. And now the public school is mandating the COVID vaccine for entry. I just want to encourage you, if you're a person and you have some capacity in your life, to be a person who fights these mandates for other people who are in those vulnerable positions of, I have to send my child to school. There were so many people who felt like they had to take this vaccination because of different things. I am friends with a lot of people who have immigrated to America, and they all took the shots. They thought, well, Americans know what they're doing. My doctor would never tell me to take something that's not safe and effective. I take the flu every year. I thought, well, when you go to a different country, you take all the vaccines. You take a flu vaccine every year, right? You take the COVID, everyone's taking the COVID shot. And it's the people who came to America for hope. It's the poor. It's people who don't have a lot of option and other needs who are being disproportionately, it's people who are illegal immigrants who feel vulnerable and don't want to stand up to the doctor and say, I don't want my child to have all these things. The young mothers from South America who take their babies and get all the shots because they have to do that to get other services. There's so many people who have vulnerabilities who may not be in a great position to push back against these. And I want to encourage you that if you're a person who has anything to give, don't pay attention to what you don't have, whatever is in your hand to give. And that may be 20 minutes of time, or maybe a large sum of money, or maybe influence to someone else, whatever is in your means to do that thing. Because the people who are disproportionately vulnerable, who are trusting, who may not have an option because of divorce, litigation, or settlement. These are people who, they need all of us to stand out and to risk. If one person risks something, they may lose everything. But if everyone stands up and we all risk, then we'll be much better. The founding fathers who were at risk of losing their titles and their lands and everything that they fought for, the founding fathers who pledged their titles and their lands and their descendants, they gave everything at the founding of America. They said, let us all hang together or we will surely all hang separately. And this is something where massive action can make a difference and can turn the tides.
That's it. We're at the end of the last bonus episode for Disease in Reverse. Again, I would like to thank you so much for your involvement in this mission of spreading the truth and hope. My dream has always been to help humanity as much as I could, and to be able to share healing protocols that truly work with you is an honor. We've learned so much in this docuseries, and I want to remind you that you have the option to own it all. You can still choose to own the entire Disease in Reverse docuseries and get your free gifts worth over $4,300, which includes 8 premium cleanse and restore supplements. Don't miss out on this chance to transform your life and your health. Once this episode is down, everything will be removed for good and you won't get the chance to own this again. Again, thank you so much for all your support and for watching this. I encourage you to use what you've learned from the powerful experts in this docuseries, from world-leading professionals on reversing vaccine injuries, long COVID, and chronic and autoimmune diseases, cancer, neurodegenerative disease. We've been sharing it all. And take back what you deserve, your God-given health. Until next time, be blessed. Hey, it's Jonathan. Just a really quick reminder that we are finally closing down everything. That's the end of bonus episode number 12. So it's a final wrap, and you will no longer be able to get access to these episodes once this closes. The screening for these has all ended. And so now you're in a situation where you get to choose, do you want this? Is this something you want to own? Do you want to use this information to help your friends and your family? Do you want to use the supplement protocol to get started on and start cleansing your body, get the toxins out once and for all, and do the things that you've been hearing about but thought, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to get started? Well, you can do it all by by just simply owning this program. So this will be really quick. I just want to remind you that you will get it all. You'll get all the supplements you sent out to you. You can read about each of the formulas down below. You'll get all the masterclasses. You'll get the books and DVDs printed and sent out to your home in our Best Value Gold program, and so much more. And the masterclasses are worth the value in and of themselves. We would charge, even just for one of the masterclasses, what you're paying for our Best Value premium package. You just pay that for a single masterclass, but we're giving you like $1,400 worth of masterclasses, $500 worth of mini series, $470 worth of supplements, and the list just keeps going. And so it's here for you, and you can claim it if you take action now, but you won't be able to get this later. And of course, how could I forget the weekly sessions where you meet 3 times a week with a coach, and you can come as much or as little or watch the recordings as you wish through that 8-week time period. Imagine the health transformations you'll have when you're going through this with this incredible group, with everyone encouraging each other, up-leveling each other, getting the best results possible. And again, you would charge more than double what you're paying, but we're giving that to you for free. And all we're doing is inviting you to purchase the core program, the books and DVDs, and which is the 12 episodes, 12 bonus episodes, 12 episodes, and the DVDs, videos, the transcripts. We're inviting you to purchase this, and everything else you get for free. And that's why it's such a great value. And please don't come back later and be disappointed when this is closed. Just purchase it here on this page today. I look forward to seeing you inside the program. Don't miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And I look forward to seeing you get the health transformation that you need, that you deserve right now. Let's not wait a day longer. Let's get you started right away today. Choose health. Start today. Start now. And start with this program. Thanks so much.